Hey there, I'm Rami, and it's time to get into year 5 of BrookClan. This year was a whirlwind of drama and tragedy. We had lots of deaths, lots of couples and kits. We even fought a war. Speaking of that war, I've put together a segment to show how the major battle went. So let's go ahead and take a peek at that. Apricot Star stares out across the sandy field at the cruel, bloodthirsty Frog Star, tyrant of BrookClan. She snarls, seeing the meager 6 warriors he's brought to the battle, suspecting it was all the clan had, considering Frogstar's murderous nature against his own clanmates. She turns back to her own numerous forces, yowling that however this battle happens, Frogstar must die to ensure the safety of both BrookClan and the other 4 clans. The 2 clans leap into battle, BrookClan greatly outnumbering BrookClan. However, Comfrey Talent is quickly blindsided by the ambitious Vesper and has to be saved by Thornscratch. Vesper takes the opportunity to heavily injure Thornscratch, who is then forced to retreat. Similarly, Batbeam is saved by her sister Shrubshard from the childish carp spots, but Vesper leaps out of nowhere and badly injures Shrubshard, who retreats. Elsewhere on the battlefield, Stateclaw is furious at what BrookClan did to her beloved mate Haven, and decides to take her rage out on the troublesome Hillpelt, killing him without hesitation. She also finds Frogstar and takes one of his lives. However, Frogstar has figured out how to heal quickly from losing lives so as to not be vulnerable, and so he launches into battle with the furious Stateclaw. Elsewhere, Snipscreech fights with Vesper, and they seem to be evenly matched, neither able to pull a hit off on the other. However, once Vesper manages to get in a hit, it's all over for Snipscreech, and she is quickly so injured she must retreat. Similarly, Ratweb is tussling with Carp Spots, but being evenly matched, they both split away to find other opponents. Goosewish, seeing how many of her clanmates Vesper has taken out, leaps onto him, quickly dealing enough damage to send the elderly cat running. Stateclaw, still fighting with Frogstar, takes another of his lives, but gets unsteady enough to be pinned beneath the leader. Plumleaf crashes into his side, pushing him off Stateclaw before trying to help the angry Molly up. Stateclaw snarls that she didn't need help and lashes her tail as she walks away to find a new opponent. Meanwhile, Hillcrawl is fighting with the strict Olive Ash and gets backed into a corner, badly wounded, until Blue Roar chases off Olive Ash. As soon as Olive Ash disengages with the 2, Stateclaw comes out of nowhere and furiously slits her throat. Ratweb engages with Frogstar in the absence of Stateclaw and tears away one of his lives with a few smart, precise blows. Her previous opponent, Carp Spots, engages with Batbeam, and she scratches her badly enough that she runs. In retribution, Comfrey Talon, who is still injured from earlier, forces Carp Spots to retreat with a few well-placed bites. Meanwhile, Badgerpur saves his young daughter Nimblepaw from the loving Cops Coast. Badgerpur recognizes that Cops Coast doesn't want to be fighting here, and tells her to leave while guiding Nimblepaw away. While Cops Coast watches them go, considering his words, Stateclaw sneaks up behind her and kills her without mercy. The strict Plumeheart fights with Barragetail, scaring her off with a few scratches. In retaliation, Zinnia chases Plumeheart and defeats her, forcing her to retreat. Zinnia turns her eyes to Frogstar and leaps for him, harshly taking a life. While he is shaking off the disorientation, he is pinned by Stateclaw and Nakuzo Needle. Snarling and spitting, he struggles against them. Gillwhistle calmly walks up to him, thinking about those he's hurt, especially the clanmates she cared for. Comfrey Talon, Hillcrawl, and even her own deputy Plumleaf. She raises a paw, claws out, and brings it down across Frogstar's neck, tearing away his final 2 lives. So now that you've seen the battle, let me explain a couple other things that happened in this war. The war with BrookClan started on Moon 5, so it actually only went on for 3 moons, until Moon 8. Most of the war was border crossing and jeering at each other. However, 2 of our cats were killed outside of the battle. One was killed when they broke into our camp to destroy herbs, and the other died to a pitfall trap that they set. During the battle, the only deaths were on their side, with Stateclaw killing Hillpelt, Olive Ash, and Cops Coast, as well as taking 2 of Frogstar's 7 lives, with Ratweb, Zinnia, and Gillwhistle taking the remaining 4. And just a fun fact, When the battle happened, BrookClan had 10 cats total, 10 cats in their entire clan. So State Claw basically decimated their population and gene pool. Anyways, the moon after the battle, peace was declared with BrookClan's new leader, Breeze Star. Now that you all know about that, we actually now need to get into StarClan to start tallying our heavy death count. First in StarClan is the adopt kit of Flicker Peak and Pebble Gleam, Green Leopard, who died on Moon 1 at 24 moons old, and she died to green cough. She was the first of 2 deaths in a mild green cough outbreak this year. In StarClan, Green Leopard has been upset that she never got to do anything spectacular in life. She spends a lot of time focusing on the living world, craving what could have been, and also bemoans to anyone who would listen how her awesome, grand, glorious life was cut short and that it isn't fair. She's a little bratty princess even in death, which isn't really a surprise. Moving on, next is the medicine cat Dahlia Tiger, who got his tail mangled by falling rocks on Moon 1 and died to the infection in his tail on Moon 4. He was only 25 moons old when he died, leaving behind his inexperienced apprentice and elderly mentor in the medicine den. However, he did live to see his apprentice become a full med cat, and he was very proud of her. While living, Dahlia Tiger was trying to take care of his clanmates all the time, as he was fairly stressed about being practically the only competent med cat. This stress continued even into death, where he constantly regretted leaving the clan of medicine cat short and berating himself for dying to infection he should have been able to heal. He's been trying to make up for it by sending plenty of omens and signs. Sapling Paw is 7 moons old, childish, and oddly insightful, and he died on Moon 5 to poison. Sapling Paw was a kitty pet we met this year, who decided to join the clan Moon 4 and was apprenticed to State Claw. On his very first patrol, which was the same moon that he joined, State Claw and Haven actually convinced him to catch an odd-acting rabbit, saying that nothing was wrong and it was safe to eat. That rabbit ended up poisoning Sapling Paw and 4 other cats, and Sapling Paw died from the poison the next moon. Sapling Paw is dismayed that he never got to learn all the clan ways, or get his warrior name. It's sad that he was so excited to learn all the clan skills, but instead immediately got used as a pawn by State Claw and Haven, and died to their machinations. However, he does have a sister from a younger litter currently in BrookClan that he is watching over. Moving on, the next cat in StarClan is Peak Iris, who died Moon 6 at 17 moons old. She was the cat who died when BrookClan broke into camp to try and destroy herbs. Peak Iris became a full med cat on Moon 2 at 13 moons old, and she celebrated her good fortune with her mentor in StarClan. When she graduated, she became a great hunter and a great speaker. While alive, she was eager to get to know her clanmates better and was looking forward to helping them heal. Sadly, this was cut short when she died, but like her mentor, she's been compensating by sending omens. Peak Iris was also excellent at finding herbs, retrieving a good variety on patrols. She was anxious to leave behind the elderly Flicker Peak in the medicine den, but now that there's another apprentice in there, she's not so worried. Next up, we have Slumber Dawn, who died Moon 7 at 48 moons old. He died to a combination of white cough and frostbite, which he caught after being caught in a snowstorm with Snip Screech. Before that, he was one of the cats poisoned by the rabbit Sapling Paw caught, though he did recover from that. Additionally, he got caught in a different snowstorm during spring, which, combined with everything else, makes me think that someone was trying to kill him, whether it be cat or just ClanGen itself. I don't know specifically why a cat would try to kill him, however, Haven did have a decent dislike for him, so that may have been the cause. Otherwise, he's been very helpful this year, giving Snip Screech advice, listening to his clanmates' problems, and especially helping his daughter out in the medicine den when she needed it. He's glad to be reunited with Peak Iris, however, he regrets leaving behind Snip Screech and their son. Next in the StarClan is another new face, Lola, who was compassionate, a good swimmer, and had natural intuition. She died on Moon 8 and died at 32 moons old. She died of red cough, which was a result of the poison she ingested from that rabbit. She had already been weak, as she'd just recovered from white cough, so the illness was quick to take hold and claim her life. While living, she was eager to meet her new clanmates, trying her hardest to help however she could, even while sick. She tended to avoid conversations about herself, as she felt upset about the fact that her old two legs abandoned her for being sick. She didn't make any connections while alive, only surface-level friendships with cats around her age, but she gets along well with Slumberdawn and StarClan. Next is a pair of young cats, Longpaw, who was loyal and quick-witted, and Sunnykit, who was wise and quick to help. Both 6 moons old, and both died on Moon 9. Sunnykit died of kitten cough, while Longpaw died on his first patrol out after being hit by a monster. These two were the children of a loner who joined this year, and among the 5 siblings, only one has survived. Sunnykit was very excited to become an apprentice and enjoyed being around the elders and hearing stories from them. She was energetic and polite, and still enjoys hearing stories from older cats in StarClan. Longpaw was apprenticed on Moon 9 to his own mother, and he wanted to hunt first to make sure he was fed. He got this wish granted, but while crossing a thunder path to reach prey on the other side, he was hit and died. Longpaw had never-ending energy, often chasing his tail or pouncing on his siblings, and he still likes to chase rabbits in StarClan. Our next cat is Vax, who died on Moon 9 to the cold when she was 99 moons old. This year, her trait changed from competitive to playful, and she often complimented clanmates and tried to set a good example for the kits and apprentices. She also became mates with Ratweb on Moon 2, which came out of nowhere, but they fell fast and hard for each other. Vax encouraged Ratweb to play around more on patrols and complimented her cheating skills. They even adopted a kit together who had been found abandoned and was rushed back to camp, where Vax quickly volunteered for her and Ratweb to take care of her. Additionally, Vax got an apprentice this year, but she died on the same moon that she got the apprentice, so they weren't paired for very long. Sadly, Vax died on a patrol with Ratweb, where a snowstorm trapped them, and Vax died keeping Ratweb warm. Vax wishes she was still alive to watch her daughter grow up and to have fun with Ratweb, but she's settling for watching over them from StarClan. Next is another new face, who also died of green cough on Moon 10 at 20 moons old. Lionel Rush was righteous, a lore keeper, and had valuable insight, and he joined the clan Moon 5 after being found injured with a mangled tail by Barrage Tail, Nakuza Needle, and Badger Purr. He spent a lot of his time in the clan thinking about two legs and kitty pets, and didn't like following clan structure and culture at all, despite receiving a clan name. This makes me think that he was a kitty pet that got out and got injured, planned to stay in BrookClan until he healed, and then was going to leave and go back to his two legs. Unfortunately, he caught green cough just as his tail healed, so he decided to stay a little longer to continue receiving treatment, but he ended up dying from the sickness. It's sad that he never got to go back to his two legs like he clearly wanted. Up next is a more familiar face, sadly. Gil Whistle died to the cold on Moon 10 at 50 moons old. This year, her trait changed from sneaky to fierce, and she was very good at fighting appropriately. She also got an apprentice in Shrubpaw, one of StateClan Haven's kits, and although they did butt heads on occasion, Shrubpaw trusted Gil Whistle quite a lot. Gil Whistle was often assisted by her mate Cloverwing in teaching Shrubpaw. Gil Whistle was opening up more this year, play fighting with Cloverwing and telling scary stories on patrol, as well as sneaking up on cats to startle them. However, her life was cut short when she was too surprised by a snowstorm while on a patrol with Cloverwing, and she died to the cold. Both her mother Flickerpeak and Cloverwing grieved her, and she curses the world for leaving them hurting while she was able to find peace in StarClan. Moving on, next is Brindlestripe, who died from infection on Moon 11 at 166 moons old. And now our very first deputy is dead. And in case you forgot, yes, Brindlestripe was BrookClan's deputy for the first 11 moons of the clan's existence. Now, this year, I found out that Brindlestripe was actually a stealth trans man, because he and O'Leary had kits. In a different scenario, I would have said that they got a surrogate. However, Brindlestripe died from infection after giving birth, so it had to have been him who carried, because that's how he died. But while he was alive, he spent a lot of time entertaining kits and apprentices, either telling ludicrous stories or playfully bossing them around. He hopes that BrookClan doesn't forget him as the first deputy, and that O'Leary is able to raise their kits on his own. Next is another old kitty, Pubblegleam, who died of white cough on Moon 12 at 159 moons old. And both of our old gay couples are gone now, and I'm really sad. I think she had a feeling she might die this year, seeing all of the sickness and the death in camp. She was restless all year. She was often going on walks outside, or looking after cats with brindlestripe, or listening in on gossip around camp. Pubblegleam didn't have much hope for living much longer, so she spent time with Flickerpeak and their kits, while Gillwhistle and Green Leopard were alive, though the deaths of both those cats lowered Pubblegleam's hope for living even more. She very much regrets leaving Flickerpeak behind with no family, but she's waiting patiently for her to rejoin her family in StarClan. Our last pair of deaths, finally, is another two siblings of Sunnykit and Longpaw. This is Stumpypaw, who is ambitious and never sat still, and Troutpaw, who is strict and a lover of stories, both being 9 moons old. These two were attached at the hip while alive, never being seen apart except for on their first patrols, where Troutpaw bragged to Stumpypaw about how she saved a kit, while good-naturedly teasing him about missing some prey. Troutpaw was the first to come to bat for Stumpypaw when he was found to be blind on Moon 7, and supported him in his apprenticeship. Stumpypaw was apprenticed to Zinnia, and Troutpaw was apprenticed to Chocolate Pudding. Stumpypaw often disobeyed his angry, strict mentor, while Troutpaw's studious nature was a bit of a struggle for her mentor to adjust to. On Moon 10, the two went on a hunting patrol with Zinnia, and Stumpypaw had an idea for squirrel hunting, designed to circumvent his disability. However, Stumpypaw couldn't quite get it to work, despite Troutpaw's encouragement, leading to the group staying out too long in the snow and all getting hypothermia. The two apprentices both pushed through the sickness, continuing to work despite it weakening them further. This ended up killing them both, 2 moons later, leaving only one of their siblings alive. But finally, we are done with our deaths this year, so let's take a look at the clan. First, as always, is our leader, who is still the charismatic Apricot Star, now 134 moons old, and she still has the same 8 lives she's had for 3 years now. Her clan is very confident in her, trusting her decisions and her judgment. Despite this, Apricot Star is still worried about her legacy. Because of this, she's been trying her best to give special speeches whenever appropriate, and trying to inspire her clanmates. Apricot Star has also been very successful in getting new blood to join the clan, including Lola, a sick kitty pet, and War and Peace, a loner with 5 kits. I actually drew a picture of that encounter since I thought her kits were adorable, and I'll show that when we get to War and Peace's segment. Apricot Star also got her second apprentice this year, a cat named Patchpaw, who is Saplingpaw's younger sister. She is starting to feel her age, though, as she's been wishing for a less physically demanding life. However, she knows that she must stay strong for her clanmates, especially right after a war. Next is Deputy Plumleaf and her mate Badgerpur, who are now 57 and 53 moons old respectively. Badgerpur has been very dependent on Plumleaf this year, constantly asking for help and approval, hunting and patrolling with her, and spending most of his time with her. This has been exacerbated by Slumberdawn dying, who was his last remaining sibling, as well as his niece Peak Iris. He's also been making lots of jokes around everyone to disguise his mental state, and only truly opens up around Plumleaf. In contrast, Plumleaf has actually been assigning Badgerpur to patrols without her, trying to lessen his dependency on her. They're both deeply in love with each other, though, and Plumleaf is currently pregnant with a second litter of kits, which she'll have on Moon 1 next year. She hopes they won't be as strange as her first litter. Plumleaf has also noticed Stateclaw being slightly less hostile to her after the war with the Mumbo clan, and has been considering her a slightly better ally lately. Additionally, concerning the war with Mumbo clan, Plumleaf has been thinking about the very real possibility that she might become the next leader of BrookClan, with Apricot Star's increasing age. She's grateful that if that does happen, she'll at least be better than Frogstar. On to our only current full medicine cat, the now 139-moon-old Flicker Peak. In this year, she has not only lost both her apprentice and her apprentice's apprentice, but also lost her wife, her daughter, and her adopted daughter with Public Gleam. Basically, everyone she loves died this year. The first half of the year, she was excited and carefree, playing with Catmint and bouncing around. However, once her family started dying, she got more subdued, wanting to get to know her other clanmates to make up for the new holes in her heart, especially Plumleaf and Badgerpur for some reason. Maybe they were bonding over the family they lost. She did get to see Dahlia Tiger in a dream on the last moon of the year, soothing her nerves about the thought that everyone she loves is doomed to die. She did get another apprentice this year, so let's talk about him next. Bluebell Paw is the new medicine cat apprentice, and he is 11 moons old, adventurous, interested in clan history, and quick-witted. He is also the youngest of Plumleaf and Badgerpur's first litter. As such, he is one of the first cats to roll a mythic trait, and the trait he rolled was luminescent markings. As a kit, he was overly curious and also liked sorting grass blades like a medicine cat sorted herbs, so he was practically destined to be a med cat. When he got apprentice on Moon 7, he changed from noisy to strict, and then later changed again to adventurous. Combined with his switching between paying very close attention and being absent-minded and distracted in his studies, Bluebell Paw doesn't seem to know who he is or what he wants beyond being a med cat, which is probably the only thing he's sure about. He doesn't seem to be very good at finding herbs without his mentor, or maybe he's just overthinking it. After Trout Paw and Stumpy Paw died, he was shaken by the amount of death happening, and thought he should have been able to prevent at least some of them. Bluebell Paw is having a constant identity crisis, but I do think he looks pretty unique, and I'm excited to have this exciting new traits in our clan. Moving on to our warriors, we're actually going to skip over both state clan wrap-up, since both have kits at the moment, and start with Goosewish, now 116 moons old. Goosewish has continued testing out unorthodox hunting techniques, and has continued with her stealing from eagles method, maintaining her nickname of Goose Eagle. She also helped bring down both a fox and a dog this year, helping steal prey away from the fox on Moon 9 and saving Patchpaw from the dog on Moon 11. Goosewish has also been emulating her friend Plumleaf, trying to set a good example for other cats, although she does whine about her clan duties. Something bad might be happening next year, however, since Goosewish has been stressing about disasters, and with her Omen Seeker trait, that's a bit worrying. Moving on, though, next is the newly widowed Snip Screech, now 90 moons old. She actually came out as Growflux on Moon 4, so she now uses she/they pronouns. They've been a very respectable and responsible warrior this year, asking what they can do around camp and actively volunteering for patrols. However, she thinks that she let Slomberdon die, since she didn't keep him warm enough on the patrol that he got frostbite on. They aren't very good at teaching, though, failing to step up to teach patrols on multiple occasions. Maybe she just expects too much from her clanmates to teach them effectively. Just like Goosewish, Snip Screech has been using eagles to aid in hunting. However, instead of just using the birds as guides, she straight up fought an eagle to take a fish it was holding. Overall, she's been blaming herself for her clanmates' deaths, thinking she could have saved both Slumberdon from the cold and Peak Iris from the raiders. They even feel terrible about having to abandon the Mumble clan battle so quickly. She's dealing with a lot of self-blame, and I hope she can realize that it's not her fault next year. Moving on, next is our first living new face. This is Blissdapple, the 85-moon-old confident Tom who is an excellent teacher and a good climber. He joined the clan on Moon 7 after being found injured by the Thunder Path by Shrub Blank and Bat Blank, and I'm saying blank because I don't want to spoil what their warrior names are in case you didn't catch it in the battle section. He spent all year healing from being hit by a car, so he only got to go on one patrol at the end of the year, where he helped escort 2 lost Spike Clan kits back to their camp. Blissdapple has been putting a little bit of space between himself and the other BrookClan cats, however he has no qualms showing off on occasion. He's definitely guarded, but wants people to like him. We don't know too much about his practical skills like fighting and hunting yet, but he definitely thinks that he's good at fighting. Next is Zinnia, now 76 moons old. Zinnia has been very confrontational this year, getting into several arguments on several different patrols. She snaps angrily at cats who annoy her, and she shreds glass and claws the earth whenever she gets deep in thought. She's so angry it's kind of worrying. She also wishes that those who have hurt her would go to the place of no stars. This anger did come in handy when she tracked a trespassing rogue and scared them off from the top of a rock. She also thinks it's unfair that her apprentice got taken away from her, and slightly blames Plumleaf for sending them out on the patrol that resulted in Stumpy Paw and Trout Paw's illness. Zinnia has also been too restless to hunt well, always getting impatient and missing her prey as a result. Overall, Zinnia keeps winding herself up and just can't calm down and take a breath. Moving on, our next cat is my favorite silly boy, the now 66-moon-old Chocolate Pudding. His broken leg from last year actually got infected, which was a bit of a scare, but it did heal, although he was left with a scar and a weak leg. He seemed content to stay in camp while healing, taking a break and playing small pranks. His main concern after healing was learning how to hunt and fight even with his new weak leg, and he bonded with Snipscreech and Goosewish about it. He nearly got drowned by a flash flood on Moon 5, which is an odd time for a flash flood on a mountain since it was summer and no snow was melting, but maybe it had just been raining a lot. He took an interest in younger cats this year, entertaining them and giving advice, and he was overjoyed to get Trout Paw as an apprentice. He was super sad that she died, and he's hoping for another apprentice soon. Moving on from the silly boy, next is Mintburst, who is now 64 moons. Her broken back from getting hit by a car healed on Moon 7, which means she was out of commission for a lot of the year again, and though she was left with a scar. Right after she healed, she got an apprentice in one of Plumleaf and Badgerpurr's kids, and she swaps between being pretty good at teaching and not very good, and she tends to hesitate and second-guess herself, making her not able to teach effectively sometimes. On another note, she's second-guessing her decision to find BrookClan with all the death happening. She worries that she'll be next to go, but she does think that maybe her apprentice would get a better mentor that way. She's dealing with a lot of feelings of inferiority and doubts that she can sufficiently provide for the clan. Next up, it's Barrage Tail, who is now 63 moons old. On the very first moon this year, Barrage Tail went on a patrol with Gil, and they came across a swarm of two legs. Gil got captured by the two legs while Barrage Tail was unable to do anything, and that guilt of, in her mind, letting Gil get captured has stuck with her all year. This has resulted in her and Chocolate Pudding hanging out and going on patrols a lot. They're even starting to romantically like each other, so if Gil is ever able to return, we may have a full polycule instead of just a hinge poly. Otherwise, Barrage Tail has been looking out for and protecting her other clanmates, making sure they do not suffer the same fate as Gil. She watches over kits, she escorts medicine cats, she gives advice, and she even looks out for cats outside the clan, such as taking Lionel Rush back to camp when he was found hurt. Barrage Tail will protect her clanmates very fiercely now, especially Chocolate Pudding. Moving on, we've got Cloverwing, now 58 moons old. This year, he actually changed from childish to charismatic. This seems to translate to him being very trustworthy through action, although he's not too good at social interactions and solving disagreements. He's been improving in his fighting skills a lot, chasing off a dog and easily taking down Gilwhistle in a spar. He seemed really content with life at the beginning of the year, basking in the sunlight and going on lighthearted hunting patrols with Gilwhistle. They'd even been talking about potentially having kits together. It hit Cloverwing hard when Gilwhistle died, and he was inconsolable after having to drag her frozen body back to camp. He seemed distant and dissociative after her death, wishing he could interact with his clanmates, but being unable to get out of his nest to do more than eat or drink. This matter wasn't helped by Thornscratch, who did something that really didn't help him get his mind off Gilwhistle's death. Cloverwing doesn't hold any resentment towards Thornscratch for that thing. He just needed some time to sort through his grief and didn't really need that. I hope Cloverwing can find some peace, but let's move on. Next is Nakuzo Needle, now 56 moons old. This year, Nakuzo Needle continues his streak of incompetence. He's terrible at catching prey, bad at teaching, can barely hold his own in a spar, and is even bad at helping the medcats on patrol. His only saving grace, skill-wise, is that he helped pin Frogstar in the battle, but that barely means anything. Nakuzo Needle has been getting better at his people skills, though, managing to help recruit 2 cats to BrookClan, one being Sapling Paw. He wants to be a great and loved hero, but he doesn't seem to really want to do the work to get there, so it frustrates him that his clanmates expect him to do better. It's really settling in for him that being a wild cat isn't the anime-esque adventure he thought it would be. However, his great speaker trait changed to eloquent speaker on the last moon of the year, so maybe he'll start taking up a more storytelling and history-keeping role in the clan next year. Moving on, our next cat is Comfrey Talon, who is now 46 moons old. Comfrey Talon was sick for a lot of the year, first with a migraine on moons 2 and 3, then poisoned by the infamous rabbit from moon 4 to moon 6, then infected by the white cough outbreak from moon 6 to moon 8. Despite that, he's been really good with kits this year, teaching one of Plumleaf and Badgerpur's kits a couple moves while he was stuck in camp, and then he helped escort lost kits back to 2 different clans. First a pair of Eagle Clan kits on moon 8, then a set of Mumble Clan kits on moon 10. He was the default kit sitter for the many moons that he was stuck in camp, and he discovered he really liked the job, actually. He was super excited to get back on patrols, though, jumping around and catching plenty of mice, which I suspect are his favorite prey. He was also thrilled to be picked for the Mumble Clan batter, knowing the horrors of Frogstar's reign, and determined to rid the clans of his evil. I think it would be interesting if Comfrey Talon became some sort of den king, taking care of kits whenever their parents are tired. Moving on, though, we've got another new face. This is Warren Peace, which is a name that I love, by the way, who is 46 moons old, responsible, and a great hunter. She is the loner that Vax and Apricot Star invited, along with her 5 kits, which, like I said, I drew a picture of because I thought it was adorable, so that's going up on screen for a bit. She was super excited to join the clan, considering that she had 5 kits and she couldn't really take care of them on her own. After she recovered from birth, she flung herself into clan life, displaying her great prowess in hunting. She was incredibly honored to get her son Longpaw as an apprentice, but then on their first patrol, she watched him get hit and killed by a car right in front of her eyes, which just absolutely traumatized her. Throughout the year, she watched her kits die one by one, leaving only one alive, and it shook her so much that cats like Bluebell Paw have noticed how traumatized she is. She feels like she's to blame for exposing them to the lifestyle that killed them, although in reality they still would have been at a lot of risk alone. She's incredibly protective of her remaining son now, but she's still an excellent hunter. Next is another new cat, a kitty pet that was brought in on moon 10 by a patrol consisting of Ratweb, Snipscreech, Nakuzelnadel, and Rook Blank, and again, censoring Rook's new name. This is Blotchfin, who is a 34-moon-old, loyal, great climber, and I really like how he looks, especially the subtle marks on his ears, nose, and tail, and his pretty eyes. When he was found, he initially hissed at the patrol, probably because he'd had a bad experience with other clan cats, and while he was cautious and hesitant, he did eventually join the clan. He decided that he needed the shelter after he got abandoned by his 2 legs. However, the moon after he joined, he got his leg caught in a 2-leg trap, adding to his resentment towards them, and he heavily injured the leg trying to get out. Despite not being here long, he seems to have formed a bond with Warren Peace over the hardship they've both faced as new clan cats. On to Thornscratch, who is now 33 moons old. On moon 1 this year, Thornscratch got an apprentice in Batpaw, which let him flex his excellent teacher skill. He really enjoyed having an apprentice, and he found it very exciting and fulfilling. He's also been hunting a lot, however, that did lead to Gilwhistle dying on a patrol that he led, which he regrets since Gilwhistle was the mate of a cat that he has a massive crush on, Cloverwing. In fact, on the last 2 moons of the year, Thornscratch asked Cloverwing to be his mate on both moons, which, like I said earlier, really wasn't great for Cloverwing's mental state, so Thornscratch kind of needs to work on his situational awareness. Other than that, he's been wanting to go on some sort of quest or journey, suggesting that he's restless or that he wants to see the world beyond the clans. Next up is the unofficial clan princess, Blue Roar, now 26 moons old. Her broken jaw from her attempted rescue last year healed on Moon 3 this year. However, she has a massive scar now. She thinks it's super cool, though she does have to be more careful eating and drinking now. Blue Roar has been really playful and excitable this year, rushing into situations without warning. She spent the first part of the year spending time with Hillcrawl, who she thought was her best friend, though she did get a bit more subdued after she realized that Hillcrawl doesn't really like her much. After this realization, she decided to reconnect with her mom, Apricot Star. She realized that she kind of forgot about her mom and her excitement about having so much freedom, so she volunteered for lots of patrols with her. She even played around with her on one patrol where they made a game out of batting pebbles down the entrance of a badger den before Apricot Star batted one so far in that it woke up the badger inside and they had to bolt. Glad her year of self-discovery went well, but let's move on to Hillcrawl, also 26 moons old. He felt terrible about having to go to war with his former clanmates, and he didn't like that he was chosen to participate in the battle. He felt quite a bit less bad after he got badly injured by his former clanmate Olivash, which left him with a large scar on his shoulder. He also got a small scar on his side after pushing through dense shrubs, and he really hates the way the scars look. Other than that, he's been very dismissive of others and self-centered this year, and especially began thinking Blue Roar is super annoying for, in his mind, pestering him all the time. Teamwork has been especially hard for him on patrols, refusing to participate in a teamwork exercise, getting into an argument with Zinnia and Stateclaw, and trying to take down some dogs by himself without working with the other members of his patrol. I think that having to choose between his old clan and his new clan this year put a big strain on him, and it led to him being harmfully independent to try and prove his loyalty and worth to his new home. Next is our first graduated warrior of the year, Rookpaw, now the 23-moon-old Rook Chill. He graduated on Moon 2 at 13 moons old and was honored for his independence. When he graduated, his confident with word skill became the great speaker trait. For the first couple moons of the year, he preferred to help his sister Peak Iris on her herb gathering patrols. However, once she died, something in him broke. He became quieter, more of a follower, going along with what others wanted. He even had to be dragged away from a flash flood because of his indecision. He did still find some enjoyment in sparring and playing, but when his dad Slumberdon also died, it was almost as if his body started walking around without his direction. His mental walls completely slammed down, and he basically went on autopilot, not making his own decisions while hoping his clanmates didn't notice anything wrong. He's basically blocking everything out and convincing both himself and everyone else that nothing's wrong. And with what happened to his mentor, he's not doing okay. The only one he let his mask down for is his mother, who knows exactly what he's going through. Moving on, however, we have Splashpaw, now Splash Mask, 22 moons old. He graduated on Moon 1 at 11 moons old, and he was celebrated for his hard work. Both his traits have changed, and he is now adventurous and a good fighter. Splash Mask has been showing off a lot this year, sticking true to his jock personality. He especially loves showing off to kits and young apprentices, convincing them he's cooler than he actually is, though a lot of them tend to see right through him. Speaking of apprentices, he got one of his own this year, probably a ploy by Apricot Star to force him to mature a bit. His apprentice is one of Plumleaf and Badgerpurse kits, and on their first patrol, he tried to steal a fish from an eagle to show its apprentice how competent he was. However, this failed, and he couldn't steal the eagle's prey. Despite puffing out his chest around her, he does care deeply for her, helping her with some bad dreams she'd been having, and hoping she would get to go to a gathering. His apprentice returns this care, and when he got a sprained leg from a two-leg trap, she made sure he was okay. I think that Apricot's plan to get him to mature is working a bit too. since he was showing off less by the end of the year. He's still overconfident, though. Next is one of two sisters, Shrubkit, who is now the 17-moon-old Shrubshard. She was mentored to Gillwhistle, who showed Shrubpaw how to be a bit more sly and sneaky, which led to her changing traits to childish. She graduated on Moon 6 at 11 moons old, and was honored for her fearlessness, and became a lore master. This year, she and her sister have been attached at the hip, and they even discovered they have a weak psychic bond, sort of like Squirrelpaw and Leafpaw from the books, but they can't share minds, they just sort of share feelings. They had way too many related or matching statuses this year for it to be normal, so this is what I think is happening. Through this bond, they got a shared vision that plagued them for moons. And warning for general mild horror, because I'm actually putting a picture of that up in 3, 2, 1. Alright, it's up. This vision was of their clanmates, specifically Slumberdon, Vax, and Gillwhistle, as well as Stumpypaw and Troutpaw, who they didn't know at the time, frozen in place in the snow around them, the frigid wind blowing eerily through the trees with no other sound. The picture should be down by now. Shrubshard's first patrol while she was an apprentice was actually her telling her mentor about these dreams, which Gillwhistle offered support for. As a warrior, Shrubshard is opportunistic, taking whatever good luck she has and twisting it to the best possible results. She has no issues interacting with kitty pets, loners, and other clan cats if it benefits her and BrookClan, even if her clanmates disapprove. She also has a playful, competitive relationship with Gillwhistle, even after she graduated, so Shrubshard was very disturbed when she died, especially since it matched up with her and her sister's shared vision. Speaking of her sister, she also became a warrior this year, and is now named Batbeam. Her mentor was Thornscratch, and on their first patrol, he showed her how to determine if a badger is currently living in a badger set. Thornscratch also gave her really good advice when she told him about the shared dream she was getting, and was actually the one to clue the sisters in on the possibility that it was a vision and not just a normal dream. Though Batbeam is very critical of her own skill, she picks up ideas quickly, and is also able to teach those ideas as well. When she graduated on Moon 7 at 12 moons old, she was honored for efficiency, and she became a skilled mediator. Between the two sisters, she takes after Haven more in that she prefers to collect information before acting. However, she is capable of acting quickly. Batbeam also doesn't mind talking to cats outside BrookClan like Shrubshard, since she knows they may have valuable information. She does startle easily, getting scared at sudden noises or movement, and her sister teases her about it sometimes. She and Shrubshard love to gossip about the happenings both inside and outside of camp, and Batbeam always manages to bring the hottest tea. On to our apprentices. First is the other two of Plumleaf and Badgerpurr's mythic children, Nimblepaw and Dashpaw. Nimblepaw is strict and quick-witted, and is apprenticed to Splashmask, while Dashpaw is adventurous, a mossball hunter, and has an active imagination, and is the apprentice of Mintburst. These two also mutated mythic traits, and in their cases, Dashpaw has glowing eyes, and Nimblepaw has an aquatic tail fin. Dashpaw liked hanging around Mintburst even as a kid, and was delighted when she became her mentor, so much so that she couldn't sit still. Dashpaw is super enthusiastic about all her duties, even the ones most apprentices hate, and she thinks her mentor is just the best ever and wants to be just like her. Dashpaw can't wait to become a warrior, and even daydreams about having a mate and kit someday. Nimblepaw, on the other hand, is a bit more practical about things, and doesn't idolize her mentor. Nimblepaw thinks Splashpaw is a braggart, which he is, so she's not wrong. She does like him a lot, though, especially since he's so young and can easily remember being her age, which lets him teach her more effectively. She's the only one of the siblings to actually think about why they look so different from their clanmates, and she's been looking for an answer as to why. The next apprentice is Patchpaw, who is actually Saplingpaw's little sister I mentioned, who is 10 moons old, daring, and quick-witted, and she joined on Moon 11. She's never actually met Saplingpaw, but I do like to think that he guided her to BrookClan from StarClan. However, he did accidentally get her in trouble with a dog, which is where a patrol found her. Patchpaw received Apricot Star as a mentor, though did get a little upset when Apricot Star didn't even take her out on her first patrol, leaving the job to Snipscreech, Barrage Tail, and Blue Roar. However, Patchpaw has proven herself competent so far, both skillfully catching a fish and being praised for her focus and enthusiasm during a training session. This makes her very confident, and the other apprentices both love and hate her for it, since she's been in the clan for so little time and is already so comfortable and skilled. Our final apprentice at the moment is War and Peace's final surviving kit, Kinkpaw. Kinkpaw is 9 moons old, arrogant, and never sits still, and he was actually born without eyes, which is a thing that can happen. Kinkpaw was apprenticed on Moon 9 to Vax, and then on their first time out of camp, he accidentally wandered onto the more open and flat territory of MumbleClan, and was nearly snatched up by a hawk that he didn't see coming before Vax came in and rescued him. His injuries from this didn't heal for nearly the whole year, and he only got to go on one patrol at the end of the year. Throughout his apprenticeship, he experienced each one of his siblings dying, one by one, while he was stuck in the medicine den, unable to do anything. He felt that if he had been able to be with them, they wouldn't have died because he could have saved them, even though he's blind. Then his mentor, the one responsible for saving his life, also died, and though he got reassigned to Plumleaf, which would usually be an honor, he didn't care and he just wanted Vax back. He acts annoyed when his mom hovers and smothers him, but he actually feels comforted that she cares so much about him, and she's pretty much the only cat he has left. Next is Chiveclaw, now 158 moons old, and fun fact, she is one of 3 original BrookClan cats left, the other 2 being Apricot Star and Flickerpeak. Chiveclaw is really slowing down. Her formidable fighter skill even downgraded to just good fighter, because she hasn't been able to hone her skills like she would as a warrior. She's been sleeping a lot, and it's not pleasant for anyone else in the Elder's Den because she snores. Loudly. When she isn't resting, Chiveclaw enjoys scaring kits and young apprentices with scary stories about monsters and the crags and shadows of their mountain. She was incredibly upset when Brindlestripe died, because he had been her first friend, the one who helped her escape and brought her to BrookClan when they were still Chive and Zebra. Though she's grieving him, she's gotten closer to his former mate O'Leary, and has become an honorary aunt to their kids. Speaking of, O'Leary, who is now 142 moons old, is currently in the nursery as a den dad to his 2 kits, Yarrowkit and Ivykit, both 4 moons old. Yarrowkit, who is practically a copy of O'Leary with Brindlestripe's eyes, is a know-it-all and an avid playfire, while Ivykit, who is patterned similar to Brindlestripe but with O'Leary's eyes, is noisy and also an avid playfighter. O'Leary was super nervous to be a parent when Brindlestripe admitted he was pregnant. He pampered Brindlestripe while he was pregnant, he hung out with young cats more to try and prepare himself, and when the kits were born, he was super involved in their care and actively sought out advice from other cats about it. He even had a status saying he was worried about how many cats die young, so he's really stressed that something might happen to them. Now, as for the kits, Yarrowkit is incredibly curious about everything, asking any question that comes to his mind. He was the one who took Brindlestripe's death harder out of the 2 kits, getting bad nightmares and not understanding what had happened. Now, Ivykit is very outspoken and loud, not caring if she's allowed to do something before doing it. She was mostly angry when her dad died, cursing the world for taking him away from her and her family. Chiveclaw has been keeping them propped up and keeps them going. Yarrowkit in particular loves his auntie Chiveclaw, and he thinks his honorary cousin Splashmask is just the coolest ever. This family is dealing with their shared loss, but I think they'll get through it. However, this next family is not dealing with loss well. Stateclaw, now 129 moons old, is back in the nursery, along with her new kit Sorrowkit, who is 4 moons old, troublesome, quick-witted, and fascinated by prophecies. State Claw has been as prickly and snappish as ever, antagonizing other cats and animals like dogs on patrols, and still despises Plumleaf, though less now. She is grudgingly grateful that Plumleaf chased Frogstar away from her in the battle. State Claw was happy to see that she was having another litter with Haven, but then something horrible happened to her mate. To add insult to injury, when the single kit was born, he looked exactly like Haven, and so State Claw named him Sorrow Kit after her grief and left him in the nursery, thinking he was taunting her with what could have been. State Claw barely interacts with him, actually preferring the other kits in the nursery. Sorrow Kit, in retaliation, causes a lot of trouble, hoping that maybe if he does something bad enough, his mom will finally pay attention to him. And since she didn't react when he was good, maybe being bad will work. Sorrow Kit is angry and hurt by his mom's neglect, and he just wants her to love him. He had to be told by someone else about Haven, and he still doesn't understand why State Claw hates him. The last family in the nursery is much more functional. Ratweb, now 135 moons old, is in the nursery with her and Vax's adopted kit, Stormkit, who is impulsive and has a morbid curiosity, and is also 4 moons old, like all the other kits. Vax also gave her some cardinal feathers to play with, but Stormkit just ended up tucking them into her fur. This year, Ratweb confessed her love to Vax, and was very happy that she said yes. Ratweb felt lighter whenever Vax was around, and felt like Vax brought a new light to her life, and allowed her to be freer and less alone. Ratweb sometimes stumbled over her words and got shy around Vax, often trying to find the perfect thing to say. Sadly, that light went out when Vax died on a patrol with Ratweb, and Ratweb had to solemnly carry her cold body back to camp. Ratweb has been seeking out friends in other clans, wanting to get out of camp since everything reminds her of Vax. However, she loves their kit, so she does her best to take care of Stormkit, even when it just makes her think of her dead mate. Stormkit is very playful and loves climbing all over Ratweb and other cats like a jungle gym. She is exploratory and loves poking her nose into every nook and cranny. She understands Ratweb's grief and wants her to feel better, so she acts silly around her to lift her spirits. They're both slowly dealing with the loss of Vax. Now let's talk about the lost cat Gil, now 82 moons old. Like I said, he got caught by Two Legs while on a patrol with Barrage Tail on Moon 1, and he was trapped as a kitty pet for a bit. He couldn't figure out how to get out of the house, and was even considering giving up and giving in, but he finally made it out on Moon 9, and made a tentative deal with a rogue to find his clan again. He really misses all the cats he left behind, especially the 2 cats he loved, Chocolate Pudding and Barrage Tail, and is thinking of all the things he wanted to do and say when he gets back. Gil is determined to find BrookClan again, but I worry that he'll be devastated by the news of all that those have died in his time away. Now, you may have been wondering where a certain villainous kitty has been all throughout the video, and here he is, the Dark Forest. Haven died on Moon 7 after falling into a pitfall trap that BrookClan set during the war, which happened because she was trying to sneak into their camp and kill as many cats as possible. Haven died because of their bloodlust and cruelty, and she has been cast into the place of no stars for it. While alive, she encouraged Sapling Paw to both catch and eat the tainted rabbit that killed him, and she's been getting more desperate in her advancing age to kill Plumleaf and take the deputy position, but frustratingly could never catch her alone. While in the Dark Forest, Haven has been cautiously exploring, figuring out the rules of where he's now trapped, and although he hasn't found any of the other cats there yet, he's figured out how to get into cats' dreams. They're currently only monitoring their former clanmates, not taking action, but they're scheming and planning, and I'm sure they'll do something nefarious next year. And with that, year 5 is over. What a tumultuous year. We had 16 deaths and 1 loss, a war, and our first cat in the Dark Forest, as well as 6 widowed cats, 3 of which are now taking care of kids. For next year, I'm definitely going to lower the cat count cap from 3 pages to 2, since I don't really want to deal with drawing an entire 60 cats. I'm also going to invite less loners and kitty pets into the clan, just to reduce our growth a bit. In other news, I now have a channel Discord, which I will put a link to in the description if you're interested in joining to share ideas, art, or just chat. As always, feel free to leave suggestions and like and subscribe if you enjoyed, but now it's time to go.